A one, a two.
Shabbat Shalom. What a great
Shabbat
beginning
Shalom,
to our
everyone.
Shabbat.
Let's sing.
Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat.
Join us. Maya Fehayom, how beautiful is the day.
Maya Fehayom, Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom. Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and once again, welcome to our home. It's so good for us to be together each Friday night, strengthening our sense of being a Kehillah Kedusha, a holy community, as we raise our voices together in song and prayer. If you look at the stars and yawn, if you see suffering and don't cry out, if you don't praise and you don't revile, then I created you in vain, says God. I think that's a perfect quote to share on this Shabbat, which many call Earth Shabbat because it's one day after Earth Day, when we celebrate our connection to the earth, not only as Jews, but all humanity. And think about the need to protect it and to preserve it. I also think it's a perfect quote and fitting for our Torah portion this Shabbat, Acharei Mot Kedoshim, which contains many famous commandments such as don't stand idle while your neighbor bleeds, and V'ahavta l'reyecha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself, and Kedoshim Tihiyu, the command to be holy. I'm going to talk about some of these things during our service, and I think it's a great thought for us to hold in our hearts and in our minds as we try our best to put aside the stress and the craziness of the week that has just ended as we enter this holy time and this holy place, which is Shabbat, a time to take a breath, a time not to run after, but to just be, a time for us to focus on our families, on our faith, on the values that are most precious to us. So if you haven't already, get your Shabbat candles ready, and we'll meet you on the other side of Lecha Dodi. Hum diddy dum diddy lecha dodi, hum diddy dum diddy lekrat bala, hum diddy dum diddy
Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hum diddy dum diddy die 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 die. Hum diddy dum diddy die 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 die. Hum diddy dum diddy die 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 die. Nekabela. Lecha
lecha
dodi.
dodi
Lecha dodi lekrat kala. B'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad ishmianu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad Shemo echad Hashem u'tiferet ve'letila. Lecha dodi
Dodi
lecha dodi Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor habracha merosh mikadem nesucha sof ma'of ma'aseh b'machshavati la. Lecha
Lecha
dodi
Dodi Lecha Dodi Lekrat Kala B'nei Shabbat B'nei Shabbat Nekabela
Hum diddy dum diddy dum die die die. Hum diddy dum die die die. Oh. Hum diddy dum die die die. Hum diddy dum die die die.
Well, tomorrow we're going to celebrate a wonderful simcha as Jolene Vasquez, the daughter of Alberto and Albertina Vasquez, celebrates her bat mitzvah. And in honor of the wonderful simcha, we're inviting the entire Vasquez family to light our Shabbat candles and lead us in the blessing. Vasquez family, take it away.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, and what a beautiful job. And as you see, just like in Fiddler on the Roof, they have 5 daughters with Fernanda, Michelle, Jolene, Carlene, and Razio. And they did a wonderful job on the blessing. Thank you so much. So our service continues on page 2, and we invite you to rise either physically or in your heart as we continue with the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Lai, lai, la, lai. Lai, lai, la, lai. Lai, lai, la, lai, 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 lai. Lai, lai, la, lai. Lai, lai, la, lai. Lai, 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 lai.
Baruch Hu
Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Mahuto, Leolam Vaed. We invite you to be seated as we join together in the Via Hafta in English, Thou Shalt Love.
And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be in thy heart, shall be in thy heart, shall be in thy heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up, and thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall speak for frontlets between thine eyes, and thou shalt write them on the doorpost of thy house, and upon thy gates, and upon thy gates, that ye may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
Well, there's a famous story about Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, who was a well-known German rabbi. One day, as he studied and he taught in his Beit Midrash, in his house of study, he suddenly stood up and he closed the tractate of Gemara that he was learning with his students, and he said to them, "I'm off. I'm going to the Alps for 3 days." And his students were startled, and they couldn't believe what he just told them. He's off to the Alps? That's so out of character for this rabbi. And so he explained, "When I reach heaven, God will ask me about many things, and about those things I will have good answers. But when God says to me, 'Nu, Shimshon, what do you think of my Alps?' What will I say?" This week, as I said a few moments ago, we celebrate Earth Shabbat, the Shabbat right after Earth Day, which should serve as a reminder that, number one, our earth is an endangered species. And number two, that we ought to make intentional time away from our screens, and we need to go out and discover the wonders of nature. In the second chapter of the book of Genesis, we are told that our role as humans was to be placed on the earth to till and to tend, which means that we were put here to be stewards of the earth, to work the land, but also to guard, to protect, and to preserve it. And to that I say, so be it. We continue with Micha Mocha.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam brit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam brit olam. Beini ubein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, asa Adonai et ha-shamayim et ha'aretz. Uveyom hashvi'i Shabbat ba'inafash, Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam brit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael place away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Die, 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 a thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song in the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Yai, dai, dai, yai, dai, dai, yai, dai, 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 yai, dai, dai, yai, dai, 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 yai, dai, dai, yai, dai, dai, yai, dai, 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 yai, dai, dai, yai, dai, 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 dai. Oh, Adonai, Sifatai, Sifatai Tiftan, Ufi, Yagitehi Latecha. Adonai, Sifatai, Sifatai Tiftan, Ufi, Yagitehi Latecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Leah Elohei Rachel Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Ve'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chastei Avot ve'Imahot V'Geula Livnei V'neihem Le'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai Mechaye hakol Atah Rav le'Hoshia Mechakel Chaim bechesed Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim Somech noflim verofech olim Umatir asurim Umekayeh emunato Lishenei afar Michamocha ba'givurot Umido melach Melech memit Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua
v'ne'eman ata l'hachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai mechayei hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom, yehalelu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. We take a few quiet moments now that each of us might have the opportunity to turn inward to our own hearts and our own minds. Perhaps to meditate, to think about the week that has passed and our aspirations for a Shabbat of rest. Tfilat Halev, the prayers of the heart. Zimrat Yah Vayli Lishua Ozi B'Zimrat Yah Vayli Lishua Zimrat Yah Vayli Lishua Ozi 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 Zimrat Yah Vayli Lishua.
Oh yeah, okay. Before he does his Devar Torah, I was just going to mention, Haley asked about this rose, and I just want you to know that it is a rose from our garden, and it's as big as it looks in the picture. It's just about the most perfect rose, and it's so beautiful. It's very, very fragrant, and it's perfect for our
Just
our
in
Earth
time
Day.
in honor of Earth Day. Well, I often have the feeling that a book written more than 3,000 years ago cannot really be expected to speak to the world in which we live, at least not in all its complexities. And then something happens that makes me realize how relevant the Torah really is. Such a thing occurred several years ago in a casino near Las Vegas. You might remember the case. A college sophomore named David Cash saw his friend Jeremy Strohmeyer attack a 7-year-old girl in the ladies' room of the casino. And he said nothing. And he did nothing to try and stop him. He simply walked away without trying to stop the attack or even to report it. The victim, Sharice Iverson, was sexually molested and then strangled to death. Strohmeyer was charged with murder and convicted. But Cash wasn't charged with anything. After all, he was not a participant in the murder. All he did was do nothing to stop it. And that's not a crime in American law. The district attorney of Clark County said Cash's inaction may be a crime in the eyes of God, but not in the eyes of Nevada's legislature. If that's true, then the laws of Nevada ought to be changed. In Jewish law, what Cash did, or to be more exact, what he did not do, is a very serious crime. In this week's Torah portion, it says very clearly, Lo ta'amod al dam re'echa, don't stand idle by the blood of your neighbor. Minding your own business in such a case is a great sin. We are dealing in this case not with some bum from the wrong side of town, but with a college student at one of America's best universities. Evidently, moral emptiness and incredible callousness and selfishness is not limited to the ghetto. 2 lessons come out of this grisly incident. The first and the most obvious one is that parents have to teach their children to be careful, to never go anywhere with strangers, to suspect anyone who tries to lure them away. But there's another lesson that parents and grandparents need to learn from this case. If you don't want your children or your grandchildren to grow up caring only about themselves, you had better teach them soon and often to feel a sense of responsibility for something bigger than themselves. Otherwise, we are headed for a society of moral depravity. It was some of the things that Cash said in interviews afterward that really upset the community. On a radio talk show, he said, I'm not going to get upset over someone else's life. I just worry about my own. From the standpoint of Jewish law, David Cash committed 2 crimes. First, not intervening to save the child's life, and second, not reporting the crime. American law needs to learn from Jewish law that there are some limits to individual freedom. American law focuses on rights. Jewish law focuses on responsibilities. It is the Jewish claim that if no one has any responsibility, then no one is really safe and no one is really free. No one likes a tattle or a snitch, but there are times when moral responsibility overrides friendship and personal comfort. Rabbi Daniel Pressman tells a story about Rabbi Moshe Magid, who once came over to a friend's house and he saw a young child with a knife in his hand, sitting on top of a table playing. Rabbi Magid started shouting, "Save the child! Save the child!" And the parents came running in the room, but they saw nothing except a child playing innocently on the table. And they asked him, Rav Moshe, why are you shouting? Thank God the child's all right. When should I shout? Said the rabbi. After the child has fallen from the table and hurt himself? Or after the child has stabbed himself? A child with a knife is a matter of life and death. After he falls, after he hurts himself, will shouting help? If I shout before he harms himself, then perhaps a family will be more careful in the future. This is the kind of behavior that comes from having internalized the duty to rescue someone who is in danger. That comes from having absorbed the teaching in this week's Torah portion, Lo ta'amod al dam reyecha. Evidently, no one taught David Cash this lesson. But this is the wisdom that American society needs to hear. When you see a child being molested, raped, and murdered, or when you see someone suffering in any way, you dare not mind your own business. This is the same lesson that someone should have taught the 3 policemen who stood passively by as Derek Chauvin held his knee for more than 9 minutes on the neck of George Floyd. You don't stand idle in the face of suffering. You don't stand frozen while someone's life is callously being taken away from him as if it has no value. What happened in Minneapolis last year and what happened in that casino in Las Vegas makes us realize that so many of the laws of our Torah are not quaint and they are not outdated. On the contrary, they speak to us today loud and clear, and they are still ahead of their time. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May it be God's will. Amen.
Amen.
Well, we're so lucky this week not only to have a Devar Torah that addresses our Torah portion, but we get to listen to the chanting of a few lines from our Parsha, our Torah portion for the week. And Laura Lipner is going to chant for us so beautifully. But let's begin. I invite everyone to rise physically or in your heart as we join together in a communal aliyah.
We're on page 7.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Our website on the YouTube channel so you can listen to her beautiful chanting. Now we continue with the Misha Berach, the prayer for healing. We are thinking of all our friends and family who are ailing and who need our help and our strength and anything that we can do to ease their time of pain. We're thinking especially of Diane Dakin, Samantha Porteous, Craig Corin, Sally Glick, Randy Watkins, Betty Morgan, Paul Fairbrook, Ron and Margaret Ray, Gabrielle Lopez-Smith, Ira Abramson, Bradley Cantor, Jackie Burke, Danny Reichman, Rebecca Williams, Bert Carlson, Ricardo Holbrook, Heidi Kranz, Philip Blair, Leslie Hirschfield, Christina Vogel, Vivian Culver, Marvin Primack, Stephen Bonacor, Lou Israels, Scott Neistat, Doralee Saxon, Jonathan Kelly, Lois Meyer, Mike Atarchi, Boaz Abramson, Susan Boivy, Gail Brody Bronstein, Barry Klein, Rebecca Nosnow, Tara Crane, Victor Altman, Amy Weiss, Zachary Lind, Judy Platt, and Wendy Obata. And we invite you to say aloud the names or to hold in your heart the names of those who you'd like to add to our Misha Berach list, or please feel free to share them by typing them into the chat. And now let's join together in our prayer for healing, Misha Berach.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu Lekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We add to those names mentioned aloud those of us who are in need of these same blessings for Refuat HaNefesh and Refuat HaGuf, for healing of mind and body and spirit. Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed are you, O God, who heals the sick.
Amen. Continue with a prayer for our country and the state of Israel. Guardian of life and liberty, grant blessings to our country. Grant our leaders patience and wisdom. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and may we never be lazy in the work of peace. Eternal God, grant blessings to the state of Israel. Protect her people, shelter them with peace, and grant them deliverance from the violence that surrounds them. May they live in harmony with one another and with their neighbors. May the bonds of faith and faith that unite the Jews of all lands be a source of strength and blessing to each of us and to all the world. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
It's up to us to call ourselves to task, to sing what's good and true, to bring about redemption. It's what we were free to do. For what's the point of being here if we're not moved to change our ways? Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. We are carrying the stories of the ones who came before. What stories will be told of us when we are here no more? We commit ourselves to action. It brings meaning to our days. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. It's up to us to own the vision. We are an answer to a call. It's up to us to live the words we speak for the benefit of all. It's up to us to bow down deeply. There's a broken world to raise. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelokenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. V'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad.
Yizkor Elohim, may God remember Kevin Mitchell, the brother of Nicole Balfour, brother-in-law of Greg Balfour, who died at a young age this week. May his memory be for a blessing. Remember as well these loved ones who died in recent weeks and months, who are either in the Shloshim period of mourning, the 30-day period of mourning, or the Shana, the 1 year of mourning after death. We remember with love Buzz Chain, Martin Coleman, Annette Adamson, Sophia Boysa, Jeanette Saphir, Mort Cohen, David Boivy, Luz and Israel Teicher, David Fortis, Fernand Morrison, Patricia Ventura, Harriet Berg, Janet Bullard, Bruce Soretsky, Saul Chatnick, Susanna Lopez, Skip Evie, Harry Harris, Shirley Bretcher, Judith Cothran, Evan Stein, Marcia Davidson, Adiel Fischler, Charlotte Constant, and Barbara Navarrete. We remember as well these loved ones who have a yortzeit, the anniversary of their death sometime in the week ahead. Gertrude Horn, Shirley Corin, Rachel Lopez, Ida Gittleman, Ruth Hare, Corey Skelton, Virginia Skelton, Jeannie White, Robert Browning, Stuart Mason, Larry Glasser, Jack Fogel, Harry Lipner, Patricia Utterback, Betty Friedman, Ephraim Saul Stein, Sam Gwasdorf, Jacob Herzberg, Augusta Taylor Weiss, Belle Ginsberg Tillen, Steve Stedman, Guadalupe Martinez, David Roth, Tilly Lewis, and Philip Korbholz. Zichronam Levracha, may all their memories be for a blessing and a never-ending source of strength. And as we do each week before we recite Kaddish, we hold in our hearts the memory of all those in our country and around the world who have perished from COVID-19, as we remember as well the 6 million who perished in the Holocaust, leaving no one to remember them. We take them into our hearts along with our own loved ones who have died, as we rise and join together in Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, b'yomad divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom.
Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
V'imru. Amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort to the bereaved among us. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. Thank you to the Vasquez family. We'll hope to see you, all of you, tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Zoom for the wonderful Simcha of
Jolene is
Jolene.
going to be wonderful.
And thank you to Steve Schermerhorn, Beth Sanders, and Carlos Lopez for our opening prelude, Shalom Aleichem, by Noah Aronson.
Great music.
And
So well done.
Go back if you didn't get a chance to hear it. Has a great Latin beat. And stay tuned for another one at the end of the service, as well as more tomorrow during the service. Thank you to Donna Smith for her contribution of music tonight during the silent meditation. And thank you to Laura. Your reading was wonderful because we heard it, but I'm very sorry that it didn't come out so perfectly here at the live broadcast. Happy birthday this week to Hallie Lindner. And thank you to Karma and Ari for a wonderful Shabbat tonight, and Ari for his harmonies.
Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. And Shabbat Shalom to everyone. But before we sign off, the thought for the week: what moves you to tears or gives you goosebumps? I think a great thought for this week of Earth Week. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Have a great Shabbat and a safe week ahead.
Hope to see you tomorrow. Shabbat Shalom.